Right, hi guys, it is Dan here, and today we are going to be talking about the Pagan Lord, which is the 7th instalment in the Last Kingdom series, which if you haven't seen any of my previous 6 or 7 videos that I've done about this series, is historical fiction relating to the process of the creation of the Kingdom of England by the ever popular Bernard Cornwell. So we pick up the story a good few years after the events of the previous novel, Death of Kings, because this series is basically focused on the conflict between the Saxons and the Danes, and there's been a long and uncharacteristic peace for this whole period. And since our narrator is the pagan Saxon warlord Uhtred, he doesn't feel that it is necessary to relate these peaceful goings-on to his audience. So in the opening scene, he meets with his eldest son and basically disowns him for becoming a Christian priest, or what Uhtred calls a wizard. And in the process, he accidentally kills a high-ranking clergyman. And this all leads to him being outlawed and having to go on the run, and basically leads to a whole chain of events that brings about the war that has been brewing between the Saxons and Danes for the whole of this period of peace that has been, the last few years. So is this book any good? I mean, well, Cornwell's mastery of the sort of popular historical fiction genre means that pretty much anything he produces is going to be well worth a read, and this one does not disappoint in that regard. Now, I've already talked about this series quite a lot and the strengths and weaknesses of it in the previous reviews that I've done. So if you want to get a more in-depth look at that, then maybe check out some of the earlier reviews that I did of the books in this series. But what I'll do is I'll just talk about a few of the particular high points in this one, what this one in particular does very well. So anyway, yeah, this might be the first time that we get to see what Uhtred is like during peacetime. For the first half of this book, it's the bit that's leading up to the war, but it's the long peace is what Uhtred calls it. And during that time, Uhtred is he's uncharacteristically indecisive, and he's constantly out there searching for trouble. It's like he can't handle just being at peace. That's not how he works. Clearly, peace does not suit him. But then as soon as we get to the point where there is a full-blown war going on, he swings into action with all of his normal, cunning, ruthless flair. And it's not long until he's got all of his enemies dancing to his tune after a series of ploys that are really well thought through by Cornwell, who clearly really has a good grasp of military theory, basically. Also, Uhtred's relationships have become really well fleshed out over the course of this series. Like I say, it's the 7th book, so they've had a lot of page time by this point. And I particularly enjoy the camaraderie that he has with his 2 right-hand men, Finan especially, but also Osferth, who is really come into his own over the last couple of books, I think, and is a really good character in this one. They've both got really different personalities, and Cornwell plays on that to really good effect, and there's a lot of humour, and you can really see their friendship, which I really like. Also, sort of as usual, but the setting is fantastically well researched and really vividly portrayed. Cornwell uses small details to really good effect to add real depth to the setting. You've got these Latin inscriptions on sort of Roman ruins or artifacts that they come across, but no one can read them, And I also like that all of his similes and metaphors that he uses are appropriate to the time period, so that really adds a sense of, having a Saxon telling you this story. I also like the fact that all the place names, this has been true for the whole series, but I like the fact that all the place names are given in their old forms, their old English forms, like what they would have been at the time. And it's a bit of fun just trying to work out exactly what their modern equivalents would be before you go back and just check the list that they give you at the start of the book. And another little thing about this book that I liked, and it's going to be particularly personal to me, is that the sort of big climactic battle is at a place called Tetnal, which is in Wolverhampton, and I actually used to work on the park in Tetnal, so potentially that was all happening. The events of this book were all happening at my old workplace. I mean, obviously 1,000 years ago, but nonetheless. Oh, and finally, the cliffhanger. The cliffhanger is great. You know, I won't talk about it in detail because spoilers, but the cliffhanger, you know, and it sets up the next book really well. I mean, like I say, I've read this whole series a bunch of times before. This is probably the 4th time that I've reread it all, so I know what's coming. But I do remember the first time I read it, at the end of the book, I was just like, "You're kidding me!" And also the beginning of the next book as well. So yeah, but I'll put up a review of that pretty soon. Where you know, I'm going to reread that pretty soon as well. So anyway, yeah, The Pagan Lord by Bernard Cornwell, book number 7 of the Last Kingdom series. This is a brilliant series. Every one of the books is fantastic. You know, so definitely read it, and I will see you next time.